Hey guys, welcome back. We are still doing the November 2016 question paper. In this question, we're doing question 2 of the paper, and it is on reconciliation, edge analysis, and VAT. So typically, these are the type of questions that you're going to be getting if you're not getting a flat-out bank reconciliation or creditors reconciliation. But we'll also go through papers where there's creditor reconciliation because we've done bank reconciliation. You can go back and look at those videos. But we haven't looked at a creditor's reconciliation. It is, quite to be honest, quite the same thing, but a lot of people do struggle with it as they started. But if you practice enough times, you can actually see that it's quite the same thing as a bank reconciliation. But without wasting any more time, I think let's just straight into the question. All right. So here we're dealing with Simply Traders, which sells goods for cash, and it also sells goods on credit. And then the required 2.1.1, it says Simply Traders have the telephone numbers of all their debtors. What other information should they obtain before allowing customers to obtain accounts? To state 2 points with the reason in each case. Okay, so the other thing, obviously, I just thought of like quickly, you would want to have the proof of address of the people that owe you money. So let's just move. So point 1. So they say get 2. So you're going to say 2. So the first thing that I thought of would be to get proof of address. Everywhere you open an account, they'll always ask you for a proof of address. And the reason for that, it is to be able to trace debtors and send them mail reminders about their accounts. So that's the reason why you would want to know what they stay, so that you can send them a post mail via their email. Yeah, and then you can also just trace them. Like if they're not paying you, you need to be sending some kind of information. You want to send some kind of information to them to make sure that they know that they need to pay. And then the second point, something that you would want is a salary advice. The other things, it's like you'd want someone's ID so that you can verify who they actually are. You could want things like an email address, next of kin, contact details, whatever the case may be, but limited into 2. I think the other one that would be top priority to me is to get a salary advice. Salary advice slip. And then the reason for this is to determine affordability. So I need to know if they can afford to have an account in my business, to determine affordability, and to also set credit limits. So you don't want to give someone that's earning 2,000 a month at a limit of 50,000. You want to make sure that it is moderately done with order. Affordability, I'm not sure how to spell it, but I think affordability. I think that's fine. If I'm wrong, you can correct the spelling. Okay, let's move into the following question. Following question says, calculate the closing balances on Debtors Control Account on 31 December 2016. All right, let's see. So we want the closing balance on the Debtors Control Account. So we're talking about a ledger here because I saw that we're also given some debtors lists and ledgers. But let's see. So the balance, so the first thing that they tell is that the balance is 179,500 before adjustments, and then the information that follows then will give us anything that we need to do when it relates to adjustments. All right. So debtors list, okay. You can see it's not even corresponding with the Debtors Control Account. So clearly something is wrong and we need to do something about that information. So let's go into C. So the following errors and omissions must be taken into account. The first one is an invoice of 2,500 issued to W. Smith was not recorded in the books of Simply Traders. So, I mean, with that one, that is quite clear that we need to just record it. So we obviously starting with the balance of 179,500, and then we issued an invoice, but we did not record it. So when they say an invoice was issued, it means that we sold something to, because you issue an invoice when you sell on credit. So it means we sold on credit to W. Smith and we did not record it. So that's what they mean when they say an invoice of 2,500 was issued. It means that we made sales, we made credit sales to W. Smith for 2,500, right? And then information B, it says the total of debtors allowances journal was posted to the debtors control account as 20,100 instead of 21,000. So in this case, we were supposed to post 21,000. So we know that debtors control, they reduced the debtors control account. So we were supposed to subtract 21,900, but instead we subtracted 20,100. So what you need to do in that case would be to subtract a further 900 in order to get to the 21,000. So would have a subtraction of 900. And then after that, let's just see the other information. So the other information, it says an invoice of 4,300 issued to Sir Prince was posted incorrectly to the account of J. Ramsey. So that does not change the total. It just means that you need to fix the debtors ledger and the debtors list. All right. And then moving on, they say the stock for 5,500 sold to Sir Prince was treated as a return of goods when posting to the debtors ledger account of Sir Prince. So we need to understand here that the book of first entries, we know that it's journals. So when we make a credit sale, we record that in the debtors journal. And then from the debtors journal, we post that into the debtors control account. And then the debtors ledger and the debtors list, they happened later in the process. So in this case, even if they messed it up in the debtors ledger, it would mean that it was messed up in the debtors ledger, but not messed up in the debtors control account. And in this case, we are much more concerned about the debtors control account, which is fine, because there's no error that has been mentioned that has been done there. Obviously, if they had messed up the debtors journal, then that error in the debtors journal would have trickled into the debtors ledger, and for that reason would make a correction, but in this case we don't need to. And then information E, they say a check of 8,350 originally received from J. Ramsey in a settlement of debt of 8,500 was returned by the bank, marked returned to drawer, no entries were made. So, I mean, even in this case, it has to do with the specific data, and it doesn't really affect the total for the debtors control account. Then moving on, an invoice for 3,600 was issued to W. Smith, was recorded correctly in the debtors journal. So that's good. If it's recorded correctly in the debtors journal, it should probably be correct in the debtors control account in the ledger, but posted as 6,000 to his account. So the error again is made only onto his account, but in the total scheme of things, it was recorded correctly. And then they say the total discount allowed in the CRJ was overstated by 500. So if the total discount received, obviously that has to do with the debtors control account now, because the error has been made in the journals, and therefore that error from the journals would then trickle into the debtors control account. And so if we overstated, it means that we subtracted too much of the discount, and therefore we need to add to the debtors control amount in order to reverse the effect of the overstatement. So we would add 500, and then we'd have a total of 181. Sorry, we'd have a total of 181,600 for the balance of debtors control. And then moving on to calculate the balance for J. Ramsey, for W. Smith, as well as Sir Prince. So we'll start with J. Ramsey. So we'll be looking at transactions that actually affect J. Ramsey. So an invoice off to W. Smith doesn't affect J. Ramsey. B does not affect J. Ramsey. And then C, it does affect. So it says an invoice of 4,300 issued to C Prince was posted incorrectly to J. Ramsey. So we'll add this one to Prince and subtract it to J. Ramsey. So what you need to do is to say minus 4,300 from J. Ramsey, and then we would have to add that to 4,300 to say Prince. And then moving on, they say stock sold to say Prince for 5,100. Stock sold for 5,100 to C Prince was treated as a return of goods when posting to the debtor's ledger of C Prince. So if we treat it as return of goods, it means we subtract it instead of adding. So what you need to do is to add back so that you can cancel that return, and then after that we actually need to add in order to record the sale. So we'd go to C Prince's account and say plus 5,100, sorry, and then add another 5,100. And I think we have the information at the top of an invoice issued to W. Smith was not recorded in the books of Simply Traders. So let's record that to W. Smith and add 2,500 because they made a sale of 2,500, but it was not recorded at all. All right. And then moving on, it says a check for 8,350. This was received originally from J. Ramsey. So J. Ramsey had paid 8,350, settling a debt of 8,500. So he must have given her a discount of 150. Was returned by the bank, marked returned to drawer, and then no entries were made in the debtor's ledger. So what you need to do, obviously, when they paid, we obviously reduced the amount that they were owing by the discount as well as by the amount that they owe. So they, as well as the amount that they paid 8,350 reduced by 8,350, and also reduced by the discount of 150. So in total reduced by 8,500. So if that payment did not actually go through and said return to drawer, meaning the check is dishonored, it's not acceptable by the bank, then in that case, we need to reverse their whole debt. And then in this case, and also we're dealing here with J. Ramsey. So we need to return the whole amount. So we had previously subtracted, right, because they were paying. So what you need to do then is to add the 8,500. Some people may want to split it and add 8,350 and then add 150. I'll just add the whole amount at one time. And then transaction that follows, it says an invoice for 3,600 issued to W. Smith was recorded incorrectly in the debtor's journal. So, or was recorded correctly in the debtor's journal, yes. And then, but posted as 6,600 into his account in the debtor's ledger. So what you need to do, we'll first cancel the 3,600. So this is a person that's buying goods. So obviously we need to first cancel. So we'll subtract the 3,600. Sorry, it says it was posted at 6,300. So we need to subtract the 6,300 and then add the 3,600 in order to reflect the right amount. So it would be something like this. So we would say minus the 6,300, and then we'd say plus the 3,600, right? And then lastly, the total for discount allowed in the CRJ. So it's not specific to a certain debt, so we don't have to do anything about that. And then, yeah. And then the last thing that we need to do then is to calculate the totals. The total for J. Ramsey should be 41,000. 700. And then for W. Smith, we should be getting a total of 19,200. So we should be getting a total of 19,200. And then lastly, for C Prince, we should be getting a total of 18,400. All right. And that's where our lesson is going to end. Catch us on the next lesson as we continue answering the rest of the questions in this question. Cheers for now.